Hi everyone, welcome to the SoccerBeat podcast. We're talking Chiefs tonight, and they have got their first win of preseason, 1-0 victory over PEC Zwolle, which is a good confidence boost after 3 defeats so far in the preseason calendars that they've played in the Netherlands. Before we get started, everyone who hasn't subscribed, which is about 2/3 of our listeners, please click the subscribe button so we can get our visibility up and increase the audience a little bit. Okay, gents, so finally a victory. That's a bit of a confidence booster. We're seeing quite a settled team now from Coach Nabi in the preseason games in general with his starting 11. What did you make of that first half? We're seeing McCarthy partner Miguel so far, with Dortley still coming back from injury. We're seeing Shinga get a lot of minutes at left back with Marco out, and I think even Mshini Nobo is getting a lot of games in midfield. There was no Thabo Tele tonight. So what did you make of the first half, and any sort of players that stood out for you?
Well, I think the first half started a bit slow. It started a bit slow, but they got the momentum going. I like the fact that they were defensively a bit more solid. Zwolle has come from a 4 in the last 5 games. They won 4 and only drawn 1. So there were no pushovers, and I think they play a very good possession brand of football, attacking from different areas. So I think overall, slow start, but the momentum was there. And I think it just built up to the time when they scored that goal. Other than that, in the first half, there wasn't many attempts on goal. A little bit disappointed with Silva up front. Didn't get much shots on target, if any. And I suppose that being the case, you need a striker who comes in to make a difference. The young man then came on, Hlongwane, scored that important goal, and it gave the team a lot more confidence going into the second half, even though they made several subs.
I think it was 2 different halves, and if you look at the first half, in my opinion, we can maybe say the striker he had one good chance, which he ballooned it, that was late in the first half. But if you look at the first half overall, man, I felt like they played too many back passes. I thought maybe Brendan Peterson had most touches, as to compare to the Kaizer Chiefs attacking players. I think he had more touches than the striker Silva, and Pule Modi was stabbing. Everything was going to the middle, going backwards to the center back or the goalkeeper. I thought for the better part of the first half, they were too negative, in my opinion.
Yeah, and we didn't see a lot of chances created, and Zwolle did create some danger down that left side. Quite a difficult game for Shinga today. You had Lepo in front of him with Modi across on the right, which was a little bit unusual. Modi usually plays down the left, and he gives his fullback a lot of protection. And Shinga, there were quite a lot of, a few runs behind him and a few crosses that came in that, nearly led to a goal. But in the second half, we saw a few changes, and we saw some more youngsters introduced. Chiefs they've been playing kind of like a 4-4-2 press this season. The 10 joins the 9, and they press like that. But in the second half, we saw Chislett come on with Matlau and play almost like 2 8s, then with Mabaso behind them. And I think, as Tsepo kind of is alluding to, the second half is much more impressive. They had more control of the game. Coach, how did you see the changes and some of the impact of the players who came on? The youngsters, and of course Mfundo Vilagazi as well on the right, made it quite a big difference as well. What did you make of the second stanza?
Well, I think, what bothered me most in the first half that led to them not creating many chances was that final pass. They created some good combination play at times, building up from the back in moments. But what led them down again was the old story of not maximizing those build-up opportunities into shots on target. If you get more shots on target, you're obviously going to get more goals ultimately. And I think the substitutes against Sarino came in, didn't have too much of an impact. Chislett, the jury is still out on him. For me personally, Silva and Chislett hasn't impressed me thus far. I think the players that have, as I said before, was Shinga on the left-hand side. Munyani had a good game tonight. He dealt well with, trying to neutralize one of their most effective attackers on the left side. So yeah, I think if you look at it overall and you look at it in its fullest, you will realize that Zwolle fluffed some easy chances. There was a couple of good chances they should have buried that could have changed the complexion of the game. I think on the balance of what we've seen, I would say overall performance-wise, Zwolle was the better team in as far as possession, chances created. But I think at the end of the day, we're reflecting on the fact that Chiefs scored that goal and had moments. Still a lot of work to be done. I think the coach has to obviously look at his squad now. He's got 4 games under the belt. He has to now look at what is his starting 11 and what is his bench players, because he's had sufficient time now to look at them. And I do think that Chislett is going to struggle to make his mark in that midfield. Didn't impress, but I think with time, we never know. Moving forward, it's a different kettle of fish when they come and play in the Premiership compared to playing against these opponents. These opponents are in pre-season as well. We're forgetting that it's also a pre-season for them. They've thrown a lot of youngsters in. We saw the kid on the right-hand side struggling tremendously. But I think for the coaches, it's important to give these fringe players an opportunity, and what better chance than in these friendly games. So not too much to read into the overall performance, but I think it's a little bit better than what we saw in the last 3 games. So as a coach, I would feel there is progress, although I'd like to see a lot more penetration and better finishing in the final third.
Yeah, Tsepo, would you agree with that? What did you think of the midfield with McLeod in there? And Chislett was a little bit deeper today, so he would drop into the shape a bit more than staying up. How have you seen Chislett so far? I know it's early days. And also McLeod, I mean, he was playing deeper in the earlier games and a more than 8 today. That midfield's still a bit of a question mark, but so how do you kind of see it at the moment?
Overall, the second half performance, I thought they played with more intent, and more purpose, and the tempo also was a little bit good in the second half. Hence, it was for me the second half was the best, of the all the preseason games we've seen. But yeah, when you come to the middle, as the coach said, it's only preseason now, and again, you find these games where the opponents they start with 80% the strong team, and second half they bring more the youngsters, or the players they want to give a chance. But I'm not too. I wouldn't say like they put out performances that I would say maybe going forward they should start Macho, Chislett, and all those guys. I also feel like a fit trailer starts in that midfield. We just need someone to partner with him. I assume Tetra is getting more minutes, and today they played Novo a bit deep, opposed to the other games where he played as a 10. So surely also preseason needs feedback for the coach. It's more information about your squad, and more feedback how going forward. If you need a plan A, plan B, who's a versatile player. So I still feel like the coach is still also trying to find the perfect partnership combination. Going into the. But I still feel a fit Cele, is the starter so far for me in that midfield.
Yes. Guys, let's focus on the striking situation a bit. Flavio Silva played tonight. He's had quite a few minutes in preseason, but tonight he went off injured after about 30 minutes. Looked like maybe a back problem. And then, of course, Naledi Hlongwane came on. He scored, which is a big confidence boost for him. And then late in the game, Wandile Duba played his first minutes of preseason. We haven't seen Ashley Dupree in the last few games. You'd think he's probably taken a small muscle injury, with all the conditioning work they've been doing. No Tashrik Morris today. So it's very up in the air, that position. If Silva goes off after 30 minutes and you're already playing youngsters, and then it's Duba, who's still a youngster, we should remember. It really does feel like they need to get another player to the door, or they need to get to Prefit and then actually use him as a 9 instead of down the left like in that first game. It seems like it could be a big question mark this season, and we haven't heard much more about Iguodala's situation. So, Coach, this is a worry. This is a worry position. I'm sure you must feel the same.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I think they looked at Silva as the solution to the problems. We know the fact that the players that they've had, we know more or less what we're going to get from them. You know what you're going to get from Dupree. You know what you're going to get from Shabalala, from Duba, etc. But we expected a little bit more, even though it's preseason. You expect a player like Silva with all the fanfare attached to signing in to come in and at least make an impact. Similarly to what we've seen in fairness to Monyane, to Shinga. These are new signings, and they've at least given us some confidence. This hasn't applied to Silva. This hasn't applied to maybe Chislett as well. But I think Chiefs need to go to the market and get a striker. We again say Lolipo is a wide attacker. We know what we're going to get from. You've got Silva, who they're playing wide. There's still a problem in getting that number 9. Is it Shaba? Maybe not. Maybe Shaba could do better coming from deeper positions. Maybe there's still that need to sign a number 9. And Dupree could play in that position where Silva is very comfortably, because he's got the pace. He can get crosses in. He can get those diagonal runs in. Personally, I'm not too confident about Silva.
Yeah, and Tsepo, if the first game was tomorrow and it's not, there's still two more friendlies. Who would be your number 9 to start that game? Would you go Duba, or would you just throw the new striker in and see what happens? Or is it just too risky at this stage? We haven't really seen him show enough.
Yeah, we haven't really seen him showing up. But as I said, if you look at today's game, the first half from the Kaizer Chiefs side, there was no supply. They played particular like most of the game in their half, and they did have moments, but it's in patches and it's not patterns, the repeated actions, frequently. But for now, if the first game was tomorrow, I would go with the Dubai, the boy. Uh, he did quite well, like the past season. I'll start with Dubai just to ease off the pressure of Silva, because once you go your whole preseason without scoring, already the guns are out. You go to the league game and you don't score, like it's 5 games no go, and as a striker you feed off that confidence. And I'm sure as much as Dubai is still young, he's adjusted, he's used to our fans and the demand of Kaizer Chiefs, the demand of the jersey, so hence I would go with a Dubai if tomorrow we would say, like, it's a first game of the season.
I think if you look at it from another perspective, maybe the coach should consider playing Serino just behind two attackers. I say this with due respect that Serino has that ability to connect and he has that ability to get onto the ball. With the likes of Duva probably, and maybe even if you're used to Pre as that second striker, two up front, and play Serino just in behind them, then you can have Tele, you can have probably Mutetwa, even though he is not that type of player that we think can give you much going forward, but he can at least give you that stability, that steel in midfield, and you play with the likes of Ntetwa, with Tele, and probably with Novo. Novo would come in. He could give you a lot more Novo. Tele going forward, linking up with Serino, and then having Ntetwa just giving them the cover. I think that could be a better option, because playing with 3 up front, they're pressing well, they're counter-pressing, but when they win possession, they don't look effective going forward. And I think they just need to increase that attacking options with playing just with another false 9 in the forward with Serino.
Yeah, I think it could be an option if they go to a midfield diamond, perhaps. If
Yeah, with
Tetwa
down
sits,
in
maybe
the
Novo and Chislett to the side, and Serena behind maybe, let's say, Lelepo and Duba, because we're not sure about Silva. Or if Silva starts, he's got someone else to kind of dovetail with, and those two can work the channels then, and then the opposite player can come into the box. Could be an option. We've seen Sundowns have success with that shape.
Yeah, but to be honest, when we speak about Serino, I feel like he's the only risk taker in terms of going forward. He's not afraid of taking risk, and which can result in feeding the strikers more or creating more chances. As you saw, even he plays more forward passes, than most of their attacking players. And not just forward passes. He's got the quality, he's got the finesse, to find a striker. Every time he's got space and time on the ball, his first option, he looks for the attackers, he looks for the runs behind, he looks for the, wingers, the striker. So he's the only guy with that, proper number 10 or proper creative, attacking player in the Kaizer Chiefs, who looks at the strikers, who look at the attacking players. So hence, we, as much as we haven't seen the best of towards the end of the season of Serino, but if you look at this Kaizer Chiefs team, they need a fit Serino to create chances or get goals.
Just to add to that, what I'm saying is that will free up the fullbacks, because you've got Froslo who likes going forward. You now have Monyani on the other side. If you can free them up with having a diamond in the middle, they become your wing players. And you play a bit more narrow in the center with your 2 strikers up front with Serino, more opportunities, more numbers into the box. I think that could be a solution, because you can't do what you've been doing and expecting to get a different result. If you do what you've been doing, you're going to get the same result. We've seen last season when the coach used 3 up front, they become disjointed. There's no numbers in the box. When they get crosses in, it's maybe you're lucky to get 1 or 2 options in the box. The more numbers you get into the box, I believe you're going to increase the number of goal scoring opportunities.
It's a good call. Guys, I think we've had a pretty good chat about the game. Just before I finish, Tsepo, I must say something. Bruce Bavuma made 2 top saves in that second half.
Yes.
And I know all the commenters are saying, I'm just number 1, Bavuma number 2, not good enough. It was nice to see him step up and make some saves. So Chiefs have another game coming up. With just a one-day turnaround, we're going to see some more of the players for sure. There's probably going to be some rotation. I'm sure we'll chat then, guys, and see exactly how they're going as the season approaches. Thanks so much.